everybody, and welcome to The Experience. This is Talking Shop, where we make sure that you know what's coming out into comic book stores soon so that you can prepare your pull boxes, let them know what you want in them. This is an interesting day because it is the first time ever I can really tell you the reason why you have a subscription to The Experience on YouTube is because you got this notification, even though all the rest of the notifications probably got lost in the chaos that is Facebook and Instagram being shut down today. So, but we've got some really great guests today. I've been super excited to talk to them because I've had their ash can in the shop for feels like many, many months. And it's about vampires, so everybody loves the vampire books. I'm very excited to hear their take on it. Everyone welcome, please, Jenna Wright and her husband, Carl Slominski.
Hey, guys.
Hi. Hello.
Hello. You guys are all dressed up and at home. I love it.
That's Monday casual wear.
I had a big old long talk with my dad on Saturday because I go and visit them. To make sure that they're, doing okay because they're getting up there. And my mom pretty much spent the whole time complaining my dad doesn't get out of his pajamas all day.
We definitely had long stretches of time over the past year and a half where neither of us got out of our pajamas either.
It was the most relaxed I've ever been.
Did you go shopping for specifically for relaxed wear during COVID?
Yeah, as my sister would call them, comfy pants or just pants without a waistband is what you need.
It's true.
I call them give-ups because I've clearly given up.
I love it how everyone calls it now. I've gained my COVID-5, but there's it has this it can't be just because I ate a lot of food. It's I'm blaming it on COVID, the whole thing.
Exactly. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you guys haven't been just hanging out in your pajamas on. Quite clearly, you guys have been creating.
We've been doing our best. We've definitely had our kind of binge TV weekends too, where you just kind of need to unplug the entire world. But
yeah,
not much really changed for us. Our schedule remained pretty much the same, just a lot less interacting.
Yeah.
So do you have other careers outside of comic creating?
Yeah, I actually write film screenplays. So I'm a screenwriter as well. And then
Same.
I roped him into screenwriting and he roped me into comics.
Yeah.
So do you work primarily on film or for, it's kind of like a weird line now, right? For the film for theater and film for streaming kind of is on the same playing field right now.
Yeah. Primarily it had been film for theater, but now with the rise of the streamers and how well, how many there are, there's certainly a force to be reckoned with. And there are a lot of places with a lot of money who want to spend it on a lot of content. So it's good.
It's
it's
Wild
good.
West right now.
Yeah.
When you're approaching script writing, when you're thinking about the differences between those two things, do you write them completely differently if you know where they're supposed to land?
I would say no. I'd say the biggest difference would be if you were writing for a limited series, like a television show or a film. But if you're doing film, whether it's streamer or studio, it's mostly just got to be the same structure, same beats, same time length. It's you don't really have to delineate for that. No, not that I found.
I didn't know if you knew it was going to streaming, if there was a certain play length that they wanted to aim for or not.
No, I don't think so. And I think that when things go out, I know that things have been a little rocky during the pandemic, the past, year and a half or so, but you're not probably just going to target streamers or just going to target traditional buyers. You'll just go to all of them and hopefully they'll bid between themselves and get you the best price.
So what was the very first script either of you wrote? I'm always interested to see where it started.
Oh man, I'm still a baby screenwriter. So
the first script I ever wrote, I write primarily in genre. I write horror, I write sci-fi, I write thrillers. And the first thing I ever wrote was a rom-com. and it was not good.
She's not very romantic either. So.
No.
It's more sci-fi.
It had to be romantic and it had to be funny. Two of things I'm not. And
I can attest to this.
Yeah, and then we set that aside because I have a screenwriting partner as well. His name is John, that I work on some things with. And it was way back in the day. And I said to him, do you know what's hot right now? Because this was 2010, 2009. I was like, Taken, contained thrillers. That's what we're going to do. It's going to be a contained thriller. And then so ever since then, it's been thrillers, it's been horror, it's been genre. And I find myself much more at home doing those things. I'm not good at being funny on command.
I am.
He is.
Perfect. So see, this makes sense now. As the togetherness is like you've got the one that's mostly the funny one.
And then I roped him in his first real, all puns intended, stab at screenwriting was a slasher.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, he's deep into the horror screenplay now.
Your jokes are getting better too.
He's rubbing off on you.
That's right.
About time.
That's right.
So I've actually heard, honestly, that a lot of getting into like film starts in the horror genre because it's less expensive to produce.
Yeah, and you also don't seem to need like a big name star to be in it because people just love the tropes in the genre. They don't need to see, Angelina Jolie getting murdered fictitiously.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be the bleeding cool headline.
I
right
know.
there.
I'm gonna get.
You did it.
Get yelled at.
Not even 7 minutes.
I like Angelina.
So is Cult of Icarus, was it born out of like you were just like thinking through script ideas and you're like, you know what, I've got one, and then you said, but I want to keep it.
Actually, this one started out as a comic. It was you
Yeah,
started it. And
like all good things, I had a name that I couldn't stop ticking on.
Yeah.
Because I always come up with a title first. I'm like, that's a cool title.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea what it was though, and we had tossed around a bunch of ideas because I was strictly comics for the first 15 years of my career, and when I met Jenna is when I started diverging into film, and her ideas always kind of inspire mine to go more commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this big lavish world that we were building with gods and fallen empires and all that. And we were coming back from C2E2, and I turned to her in the middle of that 8-hour drive, and I was like, you want to just save all the busy work and make them vampires?
Like, do you want to make it easy on our lives and not create a new monster and just say vampires because people know what those are?
She stops the car and she looks at me and she goes, I've been waiting for you to say vampires for at least a year now.
I love vampires. I never get sick of them. Vampires and zombies.
Me either. I bet. I think that we say that, like popular culture will say, we are over vampire. There's too many of them. We're over zombies. And then, Disney Plus, puts out What If with, Marvel zombies. And we're like, zombies are the best.
Love zombies. They're never not scary. They're never going to stop coming after you. It's always
You
terrifying.
just need a fresh take.
That's right.
Nothing's dead.
That's right.
Yeah, I didn't even mean that one.
Ew, zinger.
Gross.
My pun game is on point today.
Just also a reminder, since we're a live interview, if you guys have any questions, pop them in the comments. We would love to hear them from you guys, for sure. Okay, so with a name like Cult of Icarus, one must believe that. I do agree with Jenna. Like, how long did it take you to get to using that title with the flying too close to the sun and not get to vampires earlier? It's like, wow, how perfect is this?
Well, Twilight was already taken.
Yeah, it was like, well, we're going to be talking about creatures of the night who are probably obsessed with daylight and whatnot and the things they can't have. And Cult of Icarus, like, why are we spinning our wheels on this? Making good stories is hard enough. Let's just make this one part easier. So,
yeah.
So did you start from, I know you said you started with a title, but when you're writing, do you flesh out characters first, or you flesh out plot points first?
And we had most of the world kind of developed prior to even writing the story. By the time you even got around to scripting, we knew every major, minor, and back character pretty much before we even set pen to paper.
The the thing to do that we've found is you either have a plot and then you take a character that is least equipped to be in that world, and that creates the conflict, or you have your character first and then you create a world around them that is the least great world for them to be in, and there's your conflict. And with this, it was kind of like, wouldn't it be cool if, because we had this character as a foster kid, right?
Yeah.
She was always a foster kid. Like, she's got to go searching for her parents, and what if her parents aren't who she thinks they are, and maybe not even are human? Who knows? And then get wrapped up. I always love kind of like parallel worlds, so worlds that run next to ours but that are full of crazy odd creatures or characters, and that's kind of how it went from there. And he had all the backstory on like the prophecies and whatnot.
Oh, I love writing that.
You love prophecies.
Do you guys like to kind of like string along all of the plot snags that are going to come out? Do you like just give little Easter eggs as you go along? Or are you more straightforward in telling?
I'd say a healthy combination of both.
Yeah, some pop up, some you don't even realize are going to be there until you start writing, and then you're like, this would be a great thing to throw in to complicate something. But others, the big milestones, I think we had plotted out beforehand, because you have to know where you're going, and then you can just make it hard for them to get there.
Yeah, my son always points it out to me. He'd be like, Mom, what are you writing? And I'll be like, I don't know. It's all character driven. He's like, but you have to know where you're going. I'm like, they'll tell me.
The characters will make those decisions for me. They'll tell me.
Right.
It's like, don't write like me. Just work it out. Gosh, I'm sure that there's not a lot you guys can tell us in terms of like big plot points, but is there kind of if you were going to give somebody a pitch that would make them be like, I cannot not now have this in my poll box?
I think
spin it.
I think the thing that will hopefully captivate people is that this girl goes to find out what her lineage is, who her parents are, and not only does she find out that they may or may not be vampiric or witchy or whatever in nature, but that she herself may also, because of this, possibly be a harbinger of the apocalypse because of who she is. And so from there, in that she now creates all these ripples and waves throughout this world. Once people find out who she is and who her parents are, she was supposed to stay hidden, and she didn't, because she didn't know, because she was a foster kid, and now she's caused all sorts of trouble for all sorts of people. And that's the fun part, is the trouble.
Yeah, you got me now. That's all the hook it needed.
Cool. That's right.
I love, my favorite character is the one that is what I call broken. Like they're pre-broken. I don't like ones that are like, here's a purely good guy and they really are super evil. That's not what I'm talking about being broken. I'm talking about they're either on an uphill battle because of the circumstances, or they just have flaws they are trying to overcome. So absolutely. Yeah, you've got me hooked.
And every villain is the hero of their own story. Every villain has their reasons for doing what they do, and they think it's the right thing to do for one reason or another. So I love writing villains.
This is why she's a good writer.
Oh, yeah. And I was just looking at some of your art, Carl. I think it's amazing. I like what I call dirty art. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I like that description.
Yeah.
I definitely like that description.
Heck yeah.
It's like to me, it's even more magical than the really clean lined art, because when you make dirty art, you have to be purposeful about those lines.
Yep.
I don't really know how they happen. Like, what do you use to make that effect happen?
It's an unintended side effect of actually drawing with pen and paper, because most kids work digital now. I'm still brush, quill, ink on a board, just like the old guys did it. Yeah. So like all that is just happy accidents.
I love practical art. I think that I don't think that digital loses something, because I really love digital as well. But I really, really worry for, future people that have a love of the medium. Like, how are they going to collect comic art if it doesn't exist anyway, but digitally? Like
That's what makes this organic artist very special.
I also find that I like working with Carl because there are, I don't want to call them mistakes, but like the intricacies and like sometimes when something, a line goes one way or another way in digital, it's so easy to just erase it and make it perfect. And that leaves me a little bit cold. And like the things that he does that are a little bit messy, I find make it feel more alive to me or organic, or I'm not sure the word.
I love you too, honey.
Yeah, I think organic is right. I think there is something that makes it more alive when it has, you can see the, the jiggle of the nib or whatever.
Yeah.
The too much coffee hand.
Yes. So what tool do you prefer? What is your favorite?
I have a couple brushes, which I've beat the ever-loving crap out of, and a lot of quills. I have like an arsenal of coffee cups full of like really mangled brushes that I should replace, but I don't.
Parallel pens.
Parallel pens. I'm hooked on parallel pens right now.
Oh, what are those?
Supply stuff.
Because I saw Jim Mahfood use a parallel pen, and then I saw you use a parallel pen, and there we go.
All right, you're going to have to explain those. I have never heard of a parallel pen.
They're what's typically used for calligraphy. So it's like two blades against each other, and you dip, and you get like a really sharp, fine line with them.
But you can twist it and get a really thick line with it.
Exactly.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Parallel, two blades next to each other.
Parallel pen.
Yeah, that makes
I'm learning
sense.
things too.
There's so many cool new tools out there that didn't exist back in the 90s when I tried my hand at such things. It was like back then all we had was repeatograph. You had zip tone. Do you remember zip tone?
I still use Zipatone. Repeatographs. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. None of that stuff is. Nope. It's all there. Everything and the kitchen sink.
So you can still get Zipatone.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't need to hoard it anymore.
No, you do, because it's mad expensive.
Okay.
I love Zipatone. Just dots all over your fingers for the rest of the week.
Oh yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know what Zipatone is, it's really almost like clear stickers that have patterns on them. Then it would be like cross hatching or dots that go from heavy line to thin line. And it would be a huge sheet of it that would have grades in it. And you would just put it over your art, figure out what you needed, and use an X-Acto knife and cut it out, plop it on there. And it saved you a bunch of time because you didn't have to do all those dots or cross hatching. So, oh man, the day has gone by.
I'm getting reflected on it too. I'm just, Zipatone.
Do you have any kind of like cool insider information about art that you've learned over time, like specific tools or processes that you think would be super helpful for people that are watching?
Well, I went to the Joe Kubert School for Cartooning and learned from the man, the legend himself. So I tend to be a bit biased about the process, but I will say that one of the greatest things that I ever learned while there was style shouldn't be an excuse for bad execution, because you really do need to learn the rules of art, the fundamentals, right, before you break them. And things like proportions, anatomy, actual backgrounds. That's not a skill, but it is a skill, because how many comics do you see that don't have backgrounds?
Right.
All of them. I don't know where these books take place. Underwater? I don't know.
And then at the same time, he'll be drawing stuff with like these massive cityscapes in the background, and he's like, "Why do I do this to myself?"
Next book, all clouds.
I mean, you do. It's one of those things that what you're saying is absolutely true. There's so many books that don't have backgrounds. You just have. It does look like they're, taking place in the void of the Matrix.
Yeah.
But when you see comics with really great backgrounds, you absolutely notice them. I was just thinking like Nick Pitara puts feels like thousands of hours into the buildings in the background, and he's really thought it through. Like if there's monsters fighting around them, you can actually see in the windows for the stuff that's in there. I'm just like, dude, how long does this take you to do?
Several days for one pen.
Carl has said multiple times, he's like, think about when we're making comics. He's like, every comic that a kid picks up could potentially be their first comic and the thing that makes them fall in love with the medium. So why wouldn't I try to just wow them and suck them in with what we're trying to do here. And that's definitely made me, not that I wasn't trying hard before, but I want to live up to his standards. So
they're very high standards.
Yeah.
So does he ever like give you like the wink, wink, nudge, nudge? Please, honey, no more cityscapes, or
I do that to myself.
I never write cityscapes. I say, hey, she's on a roof, and then he does it to himself.
aha.
Glutton for punishment.
I just write fight scene, and then he makes me look good.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a trick right there. If you're a writer and you've got a really good artist, just write fight scene. Do not choreograph.
Oh yeah, I've actually heard that from a lot of people, that they'll find each other and work together, and then they don't want to work with anybody else because they've learned from each other what they mean by things, so they can write things like that.
Oh,
They're like, this page is them having dialogue. They're loosely, at the mall, and then they just write the dialogue, and that's it. And the artist does what the artist does, which is create worlds.
Yeah, I literally say like page 26, fight scene, panel 1 through ? And then I'll say like last panel, have them get to the hallway, and that's all I say. And then he has to spend 2 or 3 days putting that together. But thank you.
It's way better than having page 1, panel 1, do this with a fist.
He doesn't need me to say that.
I'll give you something that looks way better.
It's true.
Confidence.
Right? Well, I mean, also, you probably know much more what the other are thinking without having to talk, because you're married, and there's just stuff you learn about each other.
It's true. But I think that's also what's nice is he, especially when I started writing comics, I said, please, if I'm executing this incorrectly, tell me. Like, I have been through so much rejection in the film business. Anything you say to me is not going to hurt my feelings. I just want to get better. And so he absolutely gave me a crash course in writing, because I'm the type of person who doesn't want to do something if I'm going to do it poorly. So I was like, put me through comics boot camp, teach me what to do. And he really did. And it's a really nice working relationship that he can say, hey, just write fight scene. And I can say, hey, did I put the page turn here where I'm supposed to? Like, tell me if I'm screwing this up. Does the voice sound right? Does this work? Am I giving you too many panels? Like, all of this stuff. It's really nice to work with somebody that you can be completely honest with, I find.
Absolutely.
And it's okay if I cry every once in a while.
Why? We have a question. It's a screenwriting question.
Sure.
Is Save the Cat still a must-read for new screenwriters, or is there a better guide?
I would say
we lost him.
Save the Cat. So Save the Cat is kind of like the go-to screenwriting manual. And it is still very helpful, especially if you are first starting out. Like he was saying, it's always good to know the rules so you know when to break the rules. But I would say once you read it through, the most important thing is to internalize the rules so strongly that you then feel comfortable breaking them. Because if you only follow Save the Cat, your screenplay will feel very by the book, by the numbers. It won't have that emotion. It won't have that. The readers who have been reading for long enough will know. They'll say, oh, they're Save the Catting me. Like, this is from Save the Cat. So I would say it's good if you're a beginner. If you really want to get the best education in terms of screenwriting, it'd be to read actual scripts, which there are tons of databases out there. One that I know of that's really good is scriptslug.com. And you can just read the actual screenplays from the movies. And if you watch the movies while you read the screenplays, and you can see how it gets broken down, best education in the whole world.
Can I tack onto that?
Yeah, please.
The person that wrote Save the Cat sold one screenplay in their career, and it was a movie from Disney called Blank Check.
Really? I don't think I knew that.
Oh, you didn't know that?
I don't think so.
Ooh. Yeah, so if you've got Disney Plus, check out Blank Check and see if you want to be taking advice from that guy. I'm gonna tell you something. No, you do not.
So you guys are script writers. So what script that is out there do you think is a master class that people should seek out and read?
Oh.
That depends on what your goal is as a screenwriter. If you're a genre writer working in the horror or sci-fi space, some of those are not the same on the page as they are in the film, because a screenplay is just a blueprint.
Yeah, a lot of that's in the execution from the director. I would say screenwriters that you can always count on to do a really good job. Like, here's the thing. Aaron Sorkin is a brilliant writer, but there's nobody who can get away with writing the way that Aaron Sorkin does.
You can't start writing like that.
And like Shane Black, if you were going to read the screenplay for Die Hard, he pulls a lot of stuff in that screenplay that if everyone else tried to do it, would get them thrown in the trash. So I would
Again,
say,
those are examples of people that have been doing it and break the rules because they've been doing it.
Yeah. So
Eric Kaiser is a good example.
Eric Kaiser is a wonderful writer.
He wrote Arrival.
That's to be Arrival.
I'm obsessed with his stuff.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he's wonderful. He's a very wonderful human being as well.
Done some comics work too.
Mm-hmm.
He's written so many like languages for film and stuff. It's just like I don't know where he pulls all of it from, but it feels so unique. Every time that I see is, I'll go language by Eric Kaiser, of course.
Yeah,
he's one of those guys that you read his scripts and you're just like, all right, I quit.
He's also very efficient on the page, and I think that's another skill that, when it comes to screenwriting, is something that's learned over time through trial and error. When I first started, I way too much.
A lot of black on the page, and what you want to do with screenwriting is have as much white on the page usually as possible. You want it to be a fast read. You want them to keep going. Just like in comics, at the end of a page, you want to end on a page turn that gets them going. They have to know the answer to a question. In screenwriting, you really want to hook them early and then keep them going as much as possible. And a lot of black on the page slows the read down. So there has to be a pretty good reason for it.
That was a good question.
That was a really good question.
Sorry if I hurt your feelings with Save the Cat.
No. So this is also, I think this is JD asking the questions, which he works in film also. It says, consistency is important in screenwriting and comics too, I assume. So, so we get down to our last couple minutes here.
This has flown by.
It has.
Yeah, it totally has. So, Cult of Icarus, do you have a release date yet?
As far as we know, the first issue comes out at the end of December. Of course, that's all contingent upon any sort of shipping delays or printing delays, but we are in previews now. I believe for a tentative December 29th release date for issue 1.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
it is.
We're excited.
Can you share your social media, at least where you interact the most, so people can follow you?
Sure. I am on Twitter and Instagram when it's working, at Jenna Lynn Wright, JennaLynWright.
And I'm at Carl Sluminski on every platform except Facebook or slowmotionart.com. If you want to spell it, just look for Carl Art.
It's SLO, slow motion art.
Slow motion art. Okay. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. I'm hoping that we'll have you back closer to December when it releases.
Absolutely.
This was a blast.
That hype train going.
It was so nice to talk to you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you guys so much. Everyone stay tuned here on The Experience. We have another great interview coming up right after this break.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey. And behind every page, there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit ComicShopLocator.com today.
back to The Experience. This is Talking Shop, where we are meeting up with great creators today to talk about their projects that are releasing this week or very soon. In this case, it's totally stuff that's releasing this week. Putting his fingers into the pie that is Jennifer's Blood by Dynamite. This is Fred Van Lente.
Hello, Jen. Good to see you again.
Do I get to see you in New York in a few days?
You will. I will. Yep. I'll be in Artist Alley next to Ryan Dunleavy, my frequent partner in crime. We're going to be A19 and A20, respectively. So.
A19, A18. I'm trying to remember where that is in the room.
It's towards the back.
New York, people, if you've never been to New York Comic Con, I will tell you that this is kind of a cool setup. Now, at first, it sounds like that they put people, the undesirables, down a different level because Artist Alley is down kind of like on the next level down. But
right.
It is this huge hall that you have to go near if you're going to the bathroom. So everybody goes up there.
Well, I think there's only the two halls this year, right? Because they're reducing capacity. So there's the main floor and then there's Artist Alley. And I think that's basically it. Back in the day, I have... just to show my age, I have showed at every New York Comic Con.
When did it start?
Since it started, which started in 2007, I want to say.
Okay. How is that showing your age? 2007, you could be a baby still.
That's true. Well, yeah, you're right, Jen. I am 14 years old. I first showed up as a baby. I thought you were going to say like
San Diego Comic Con, which was like 1975 or something.
No, well, there was a weird sort of, when I first moved to New York City in 1995, there was a real like desert for Comic Cons. I think there was a Javits show, like right when I moved in. Javits is the big, really ugly convention center here in New York City. Sadly, we don't have the world's greatest convention center. My wife, in fact, worked for a time for the architecture firm that actually was redesigning it. You remember when Artist Alley had its own building at New York Comic Con? Like you'd go down a hallway. Technically, it was a temporary building, and Crystal worked for the architecture firm that built that. It was sort of a stopgap, but then political shenanigans, as it often does here in New York, kind of squashed that renovation or the total rebuild of the Javits. So they just did that. Sorry, I didn't realize you wanted to hear so much New York Comic Con trivia at the top of the show. But anyway,
we're almost on top of New York Comic Con, so it makes sense to talk about.
That's right.
What people are up to if they get to go.
Yeah, and so it's always been a terrific experience, and I really love. It's my hometown show. The only time I didn't display was last year, but there was no con, so. My unbroken streak continues, and Ryan always have a terrific time. We're both New Yorkers, so it's a local show. I need to take the subway.
So I think that I went the last time, as far as I know, the last time it actually was on was that 2018.
Okay.
And it was my first time to New York. I went by myself, which was fine, but I am a person that doesn't feel like I get overwhelmed very easily. And I've been to San Diego Comic Con every year since 1999.
Sure.
And that thing is packed out wall to wall people.
Yeah.
But there's something that's different about New York. It has energy that never stops. And I think that for me that lives in a town that you can kind of step away, I did get overwhelmed. I totally use, I don't know if people know this, and this would be helpful to anybody that does find themselves getting overwhelmed. Or if maybe you're a tiny bit on the spectrum, or if you're all the way there, they have a room for people that get overwhelmed, that everyone in there is supposed to be quiet, and they're not supposed to do interviews in there, and they're not supposed to, like call their, besties and talk really loud or whatever. It's supposed to be a quiet room, which all of those things people still do in there, but it's way quieter than the main Javits. So it's by the pizza place that's inside
it's like the quiet
Javits.
car on the Amtrak. Yeah, and we supposedly get like Artist Alley bathrooms this time, which is always exciting. Trying to find the least used bathroom is always an exciting con ritual. Which, and this will be my first con since 2019, so I am actually more excited about it than I thought I was going to be. But
yeah, I think we get to be excited because for a long time we were worried that it wasn't going to happen. So it's hard to tell yourself get excited about something if you just feel like the rug's coming out. Then because it happened so many times before.
Yeah, and I think the difference with San Diego is that now I'm remembering that's what I was going to say before is that San Diego is small enough of a city that the con can just kind of take it over. New York City, it's one of the 17 things happening in New York City, even though statistically at some point I wonder if post-COVID will come back, is that at a certain point New York Comic Con was bigger in terms of attendance than San Diego, which is a little hard to believe. But apparently that was true to statistically for a few years. It is actually the largest event in New York City, believe it or not, despite the fact that it doesn't take over the whole town. It is the largest attended event.
Oh, that's amazing.
In the city borders. At least it has been pre-social distancing and the various things are, and reducing capacity sort of measures that Reed is taking for this year's show.
So let's talk a little bit about Jennifer's Blood. I know, all I know is that used to be Garth's baby.
Mm-hmm.
And did you have to like do a pinky swear or become a blood brother or something to have access to getting to do it?
I didn't. I'm afraid he's going to jump. I know he lives just across the river from me, so I think he's going to jump out of the bushes at any moment. And hopefully with a hug. Hopefully he'll be like, I love what you did with it. Like that, but in an Irish accent.
So I like the setup for it, right? Because we all know that she is, a very deadly human being. And the idea that they put her somewhere out of the way so that I don't know if they're hiding her away or hiding people away from her. The idea that she just picked up where she left off.
Right.
She ends up where everyone is, the mafiosos have become put into, witness protection.
Exactly. Yeah. My pitch to Dynamite and to my editor, Nate Cosby, was that how at the end of Goodfellas, Ray Liotta ends up in this sort of pathetic cul-de-sac at the end of his mafia career. My pitch was this is a town where the cul-de-sacs are filled with nothing but mobsters, and they're maybe not as retired as you think they are. They've all been squirreled away in the witness protection program in this small town in Utah called Bountiful, but they're still running their dirt. And suddenly the series of murders starts happening in the style of the Jennifer Blood murders from the earlier series. Complicated, of course, by the fact that when Al Ewing took over the series after Garth left, Jennifer Blood was famously killed in prison at the end of that series, or was she? So is this the original Jennifer Blood? Is this a new Jennifer Blood? Ooh. Is there some even crazier supernatural explanation for what's going on? Given the title, that might be possible, but you just have to read it and find out. It's a fun murder mystery, action-packed, gore-filled grindhouse comic series. I really wanted to do a comic that was not socially acceptable. Like I love the fact that comics are so mainstream. I'm sure you as an owner love it, having all sorts of different people come to the store. But I grew up in the 80s being vaguely ashamed of many things, including comics reading. So I wanted to capture some of that sort of like comics have become extremely respectable, right?
Oh yeah. And
so I wanted a comic with a lot of like murder and nudity and blood and swearing and some, as you'll see, some social commentary coming down the pipe. Nothing heavy-handed, but definitely some of that. We don't necessarily have to be friends with everybody. Sort of my point.
I'll tell you a related story. I don't know how many people know this story. I know the FBI does, but here where I live, which is like suburbia Houston, which doesn't make any sense for this thing to show up. But I went to a garage sale once, and there was, amongst all the detritus there that was laying out, a pair of pinking shears, which I needed because I do sewing. Right. And it was wrapped up. There was like paper wrapping up the cutty parts, and I thought that was just for safety, so that it didn't hurt anybody at the garage sale. I bought them, took them home, and unwrapped this paper that was around the pinking shears, which had pages and pages of a diary that had been written down.
Okay.
And it appeared to be, from my reading, a gentleman who was once with the mafia.
Oh, wow.
In Florida, and spilled all kinds of guts on the page about what went on and with whom and all that kind of stuff. And amongst all of this, just like writing about things that didn't make any difference one way or the other to me, just drops this one line and says, and basically drops the one thing that is related to the mafia that everyone wants to know. Where's who buried?
Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it basically says that, as you know, Jimmy Hoffa is buried at the dump in Grosse Pointe, Michigan.
Okay.
So
That would line in what happens in The Irishman, right? The Scorsese movie. That's the general area where he was killed.
So I actually when I read that and I realized what the importance of the letter was, I actually sent it off to the FBI and I said, I don't want to know what you do with this. You don't have to follow up with me. I just feel like you should have this.
Right. And these were handwritten?
Yes.
Oh wow, guys must have pretty good handwriting. If anyone finds my murder confession handwritten diaries, they're going to be like, "What is this guy? I can't make this. Is this a grocery list? What is this?" That's pretty cool. You know, it just goes to show you that even in, you know, some sewing loving mafia guy wrapped shears in his diary in the suburbs.
That's right.
Outside Houston.
I know a lot of people will be like, "Oh, someone just set you up." But it's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would anyone believe it? Anyone would even read that or understand, read it long enough to think that it's anything?
Right. Yeah. I'm a big believer. I don't really believe in conspiracy theory, and I've written a lot about conspiracy theories. But like, I believe in stupidity theory. Like, people do people do inexplicable things all the time because it makes sense to them in their little noggins when they do it, but that they stop to think about it, or if anyone else like described, you know, if they had to describe to anybody else their reasonings, you'd just be like, "What are you talking about? That doesn't make any freaking sense."
That doesn't make a lot of sense. You're right.
In the early 90s, I think it was the FBI, or it might actually have been the CIA, declassified all these documents regarding the JFK assassination. And like, again, this is what I'm talking about, stupidity theory. Apparently a significant portion of the files were newspaper articles and magazine clippings that they had amassed, and they literally just stamped top secret on it. Now, stop and think about that for a second. They're trying to classify Time magazine simply by stamping top secret on it. Like, that's not a thing. That's not a thing that happens. You know, so that's definitely so. No, I have no doubt that's genuine. Whether or not he actually knows where Jimmy Hoffa is buried and is himself delusional and full of crap is anyone's guess, and maybe Sorry?
I love our producers put down, everyone knows a Hoffa's buried under the end zone of the Giants Stadium, except for they've scanned all that area about 1 billion times for different TV shows. That's not where he is.
That is the Meadowlands, right? That's the Meadowlands theory. That is what is put forward in Danny DeVito's film starring Jack Nicholson, Hoffa. But the Scorsese film, The Irishman, which came out 20 years later, says that it was Michigan, which, given Hoffa's connection to Detroit, makes a little bit more sense. To me, but
so cool. So in Jennifer Blood, given that you started with a dead character, did you feel free to, did they just tell you as you will, whatever you like?
Pretty much. Want to say she might not be dead though.
Okay, sure.
Theoretically,
she appears to be dead.
Theoretically dead. Basically, you know, we wanted a self-contained story, but and this is also very important to me, is I didn't want to do a reboot. Like, this is not a reimagining of Jennifer Blood. This is taking everything that Garth and Al and their collaborators did and moving it forward. So it's absolutely a continuation of the story. And you know, I write, as you may know, I write mystery novels sometimes, like Ted the Comedians and The Con Artist, and I pride myself in being a mystery writer. So this is I wouldn't go so far as to say that before you got to issue 5, you could be like, "Oh, I know exactly how this is all being done," but you know, the clues are there.
Oh, so we should pay attention. You're dropping breadcrumbs, is what you're saying.
Absolutely, and in fact, come to think of it, which is very relevant to your story. One of the mafia people in Bountiful, they can't leave. So the problem is, what makes this such a great environment for Jennifer Blood, the sort of female Punisher, to operate in, is that all these people are basically trapped here in Bountiful because they can't leave without violating the terms of their plea agreements, which would mean theoretically they would all go back. They would go to real prison. Mm-hmm. So the mafia dons who run Bountiful get this Julietta Romeo, who is who's Europe's greatest assassin. They get her incarcerated in Bountiful as well, and so she's hunting Jennifer Blood. So I wanted Jennifer to have someone who was of her stature, right? Have a nemesis who was kind of like, worthy of sort of going up against her as an antagonist. And so I made Giulietta is from Napoli, is from Naples, as is the terrific Vincenzo Frederici, who's drawing the book. So I do get constant corrections on my Neapolitan slang from Vincenzo as it's going along. So he's been a huge useful resource that I've been leaning on quite a lot. And of course, he's really being complimented. The colors from DeBarla Kelly are terrific, and Simon Boland's doing the letters, and he's doing a great job too. And the whole team is just spectacular. Yeah, so ostensibly you have this hit woman as the detective, right, who's trying to figure out the mystery of who is Jennifer Blood, how did she get here, why is she not dead, et cetera, et cetera. But Jennifer Blood is sort of keeping one step ahead of her. So it's a lot of fun. I really started getting into I don't know if you know what giallo movies are, which was this genre was really popular in Italy. Back to Italy again. In the 1970s, Dario Argento directed a lot of them. They're these very violent, sexy. They're ostensibly, they're not really slasher movies. They're more like there's always a murder mystery, but the murders are always executed in these ridiculously gory fashion. Like if you've seen Suspiria, that's not technically a giallo movie because it's got witchcraft in it, but Dario Argento, who directed the movie, sort of did the best giallos, and he did Deep Red and a bunch of these great movies. They're insane, and so very much Jennifer Blood is sort of from that kind of vein. And again, I just wanted to do a comic that was not going to be put on the American Library Association's reading list for children. I've been on this before. It's great. I have nothing against the American Library Association. I love them and the great work they do. But, sometimes you got to go out in the streets, and mix it up a little bit. You don't want to always be hanging out in the teacher's lounge,
I know, because there's other things that you make that are very clearly aiming to be on that list.
That's right. I see two of them by your elbow. So,
yes.
So that's a slightly different series. But yeah, you'd like to be versatile enough to try things up. And we were having so much fun. Jennifer Blood spun out of this zombie series I'm doing for Dynamite called Die! Dynamite! Which has been a lot of fun in so many ways. And so a couple of those characters are spinning off into their own books that I'm doing. And Jennifer Blood was the most fun because this was sort of the most like Dynamite. I think the Dynamite fans are going to like this the most because just in the first issue alone, there was at least 2 or 3 just spectacular kills that I'm very proud of. And Vincenzo has executed very, very well. But definitely don't bring this home to your mother, particularly if you're.
So you're saying if we're jonesing for something to bridge the gap between now and John Wick 4, this would be the thing?
Yeah, that's a pretty good comparison. Yeah, absolutely. Even more gore.
Ooh. Okay, so you mentioned Dynamite, and I heard through the grapevine, I think Nick told me that it was pitched to him, and it seemed like it was okay. Well, we're going to take all our characters and do the undead versions of them. I don't know about that. And then somebody handed him a script, and it was amazing. Was it you?
It might have been. I hope it was. I know that I came on board after Declan Shibley left, so it might have been him. I don't know for a fact, but I'd like to think it was him, or me, or both of us.
Either one, both cool dudes.
It's all good. But yeah, that's been a lot of fun, and I love and I love all those pulp characters, and I really enjoyed writing Vampirella, and I always like Pantha, which is this obscure Warren from sort of the Warren era, the 70s magazines, the early, those black and white magazines, and they're both from Dracula, which is this planet that is only monsters. And so I just made them sisters. I don't think they're technically sisters, really. That's not canon. But the idea of these two vampire werewolf sisters bickering with each other constantly just amused me greatly, and they've been a lot of fun to write. Ash is great fun to write. That was sort of the new character that we got for Dynamite. lives, and then for season 3 we've got another really big heavy hitter coming along, so kind of excited to push up my sleeves and get started on that.
Oh, that'd be so awesome.
Absolutely.
I just thought of a cool question and it like escaped because you said something else cool and I was like, oh wait.
Bring them. I'm not going anywhere. Just feed me more questions. It's all good.
Oh, I remember what it was. So I think the only person that could tell you whether you're right or wrong, honestly, about whether they're related is probably someone like Craig Yo.
Interesting. I bet you're right. That's true. Well, it's
He
one of those
moved out
things.
to Berlin.
Well, it's one of those things where they've both been retconned kind of a lot. I was just going off of in the original 70s magazine, she was like an ancient Egyptian princess, cursed. But then a few years later, as we find out, no, she's from Dracula. And again, where you find out that are there Frankenstein people in Dracula? Are there mummy people in Dracula? Maybe, probably. There will be now if I certainly keep writing these characters. But yeah, I just like the idea of
Goodness.
of merging all the stuff. And what's cool about that is that when you do this zombie stuff, because obviously I did Marvel Zombies for many years over at Marvel, is that they sort of let you do whatever it's in Marvel's case, I was tickled pink to see that they actually did a what if on Disney Plus of the Marvel Zombies, because in 2008, when I took over the Marvel Zombies franchise, they wouldn't let me use Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, because that was still, I think the Disney sale had I think they were in the middle of the Disney sale, but like the upper echelons of the company, like above publishing, were like, we don't want any investors or the mom of a 12-year-old to see Spider-Man eating Aunt May's face off, which I get. But like a lot of my time at Marvel, I was like the one-man Suicide Squad for Marvel. They would always give these crazy edicts on the things I was supposed to do. So I had to do Marvel Zombies without Wolverine or Spider-Man or Captain America. So I said Machine Man. It still sold really well. I think it's still my best-selling comic of all time. I still get nice royalties for it, but that just sort of proved that and then the next one, then when that was successful, then they let us do more of the main characters and stuff. We always ended up portraying Machine Man and Howard the Duck and stuff. But it just amused me that of all places, Disney Plus has a Marvel Zombies half hour.
Things have changed so much about what Disney is open to doing.
Sure.
And I'm thinking probably by this point, surely DC, Time Warner's figured that out as well. Because for a while they were super protective of Batman and wouldn't do anything. Even the art house book, Batman Damn, they said, nope, can't do what we previously said was okay.
That's right. They won't let him do certain acts, or at least allude to it, which seems to me to be sending the children of America exactly the wrong message.
Right. Like anyone really says to themselves if they look at Batman and say, he's the kind of person I want to emulate.
Yeah, is exactly. Well, or for that matter, it's the sort of person who does, as George Carlin would say, man on top, get it over with quick. Style, love making.
There was a whole discussion about that for a long time, about characters and what their proclivities would be. And I'd be like, oh, we've gone too far.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I figure that if you are that living on the edge, you're going to be on the edge in many different aspects of your life, I feel like. But that's just my personal opinion. I
only have 4 minutes, but I did want to touch on this because I saw it and it was intriguing to me. I want to watch one. Explain to me comic book deathmatch.
So comic book deathmatch is a thing that I do for 13th Dimension, which is this fun retro news site and culture site run by my friend Dan Greenfield here in New York. Comic book deathmatch is where I take two opposing, like very similar comics and read their runs next to each other month by month, like as you would if you were in 1964 buying them off the stands, or 1984, or whenever it is that the series happened. And then at the end, I crown a winner. It's extremely silly. I crack a lot of jokes. I think they're a lot of fun. People really seem to dig them. The first one was, you may know the story, Jen, that supposedly that Fantastic Four came about because Martin Goodman, who owned Marvel, told Stan Lee, let's do something like Justice League, because Justice League came out and was selling very well. So I read Fantastic Four and Justice League side by side and decided to pick the winner. New Teen Titans was always said to have been inspired by the Chris Claremont X-Men, right? So I read Uncanny X-Men at the exact same time it was coming out with New Teen Titans and said which one was better. The most recent was fun because I'm a huge Doom Patrol fan, and so Doom Patrol is about a bunch of misfits being led by this really smart guy who's in a wheelchair. And a couple months, it was 2 months after Doom Patrol debuted, another superhero team of misfits led by a guy in a wheelchair called the X-Men premiered. So I pitted the X-Men and Doom Patrol against each other. I'm working on the new one right now, and it's super fun. It's 2 characters I really like. So yeah, it's an excuse to read old comics and like almost have like a time capsule to sort of go back, because I'm probably, I may be the last generation of people who, because my nearest comic book store was a 40-minute drive away until I got my license. Right, I couldn't avail myself of the Space Cadets experience or anything like it. So I had to buy it off the spinner rack, and so you're always like missing issues, right? Because the news dealers don't give a crap, and they just kind of it just kind of shows up in various. In kind of a haphazard fashion. So I wanted to recreate that experience of like reading the issues as they came out side by side. And so they're fun. People seem to dig them, and I enjoy doing them.
That sounds like a blast. So people can find that on YouTube, looking up 13 Dimension.
No, it's not video. It is words. It's me typing.
Oh.
It's only for your eyeballs. But it's super fun. Yeah, go to 13thdimension.com, or there's a link in my bio on fredvanletty.com.
See, my brain had it all envisioned as like a video podcast.
That's right. No, I like to do it at my leisure, and I still like I'm a wordsmith. That's my shtick. I like doing stuff on video, but I like doing words.
All right. As we're in our last minute, do you want to drop your social media links where you like to be followed?
Absolutely. If you can see my name on the screen, Fred Van Lente. Yep, that's the death match. That's the index. Well, the death match just got dropped on the screen. If you can spell that name, that's fredvanlente.com. That's me on Gmail. That's me on Twitter. That's me on Facebook, if there is a Facebook in the future. Ditto for Instagram. That's me on Instagram, if there is an Instagram in the future. I can live with that. I'm fine.
I'm an old person. I still use the Facebooks.
That's right. But I won't do TikTok. I'm not a fan of Facebook, but like I'm in the Twitter. Like I'm right on Twitter. Like that's my home.
No Snapchat for Fred Van Lente. No.
I just, honestly, Jen, I can barely do Instagram because I'm a writer. I don't leave the house. I got nothing to take photos of. Who cares? I take photos of like I cook a lot, so my Instagram is 90% photos of things that I have made, and I because they look good.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. A reminder to add Jennifer Blood to your poll box for Wednesday. We do this very early. There's a bunch of really swanky covers. Just showing you one there, but they're I've got my favorites. Lesnar. Oh, that one right there, the A cover is my favorite.
That brings me back.
Mm-hmm.
Cry for Dawn. 90s. It's good stuff.
Thank you so much, Fred. I'll see you in just a few days, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm excited. Cool. I will see you then.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Thank you for being with us here. Stick around. There's more stuff coming up on The Experience.